First off, no break next week, which is great, because Oda can just keep the ball rolling after a stellar chapter like this. But before we get into the chapter, it seems we're finally reaching the end of Beijing's Oh My Family cover story, possibly with a wedding with Gotti, I'm not Italian, and Lola. Well, we'll have to see when we get there, but I do think it was more or less worth keeping Pound alive. I know the Will of Peace still a thing, but I really do not give a flying fuck. Now, this chapter sets up what I'll call the preliminary fights. Basically, the first big fights that might actually amount to more than a few clashes or an off-panel battle. But then again, Jack's rematch with Neko and Ino was done off-panel, so any fight is fair game to go unseen. Now, before we all get up in arms, to be fair, it's not like we actually saw most of the fights in Marineford either, and we all fucking love that arc. The most we got there was initial clashes, the end results, with Akainu versus Whitebeard being the closest thing we got to a traditional 1v1. So, like I said again, we enjoyed that. That is still one of many people's favorite arcs, so as long as Wano does a lot of that, it should be fine in terms of fights. Of course, I still believe fights featuring the Straw Hats will at least get more focus, so it's not a waste to talk about these particular matchups. So, still hold out hope for the main cast. Maybe not all the scabbards, but yeah, Straw Hats at the very least, they should be getting their initial fights. Because like I said, in Marineford, you didn't get a lot of that, but then again, those weren't the Straw Hats. But before we get into the matchups, I should mention that Robin, Chopper, and Brook were actually absent. So, while Luffy and Sanji also are marching to the next area, I guess the matchups will mostly for now focus on Usopp, Nami, Frankie, and Zoro. And I'm not exactly sure which opponent Jinbei would go up against, but he's still in the general area, Zoro, so maybe he'll join that matchup. It seems as if Nami and Usopp will be teaming up to take on Ulti in Page 1, and personally I'm surprised I didn't make the connection sooner. Despite the physical strength of Ulti and the stamina of Page 1, it's the personalities of both duos that make up for the most interesting combat mixed with Oda-style humor, and the setup alone hints at that amazingly. Even without Zeus, Nami still has devastating weather attacks, and Usopp's pop green should never be underestimated. Their skills and trickery should be more than enough to outsmart their brute strength opponents. Now, Frankie still seems squared off to fight the numbers, but he clarified he doesn't have enough cola to take on 10 of them. So for now, he seems focused on Hacha. Well, to be fair, it's not like he has to fight all 10. 9 is up top. 2 others were taken out by Luffy and Drake, so yeah, he doesn't have a lot left. I think 7 or 6 of them are left. Now, before we get into Zoro's tag team matchup, we should go over the X-Drake situation. Now, I absolutely love how Zoro, Jinbei, and Frankie were very quick to shoot Drake down, yet Luffy was quick to let him join despite having a very specific reason not to. And admittedly, Drake was recognized by Luffy, so he should remember the situation with Thomas Town. However, surprisingly, Luffy is incredibly focused this chapter, as shown with the Pooh, so it's just possible he's focusing on what's important, and that's getting to Kaido and backing up, the scabbards. Now, while Zoro didn't simply accept Drake right away, he was close enough to understanding him by the time Apu came after them, so common enemy, let's go, might as well team up, which he basically said, you know what, let's team up, fuck it. And Apu seems to be getting assist from Queen this time, though, so we have Zoro and Drake, 2 close-up masters of bladed weaponry, going up against 2 long-range fighters. Now, Apu is easy to counter on paper, but to also dodge Queen's plague bullets might be more of a challenge. And it is extremely funny how everyone had Zoro pitted up against King, but now we find him up against Queen instead. Now, I will say it's refreshing to see Queen pull out his true gimmick, as he definitely has his brute strength, but his real danger is his weapons of mass destruction. I am so happy to say that we can finally see the Sulong forms of Neku and Inu, and they are frightening yet surprisingly similar. Plus, with Kinamayan being a perfect counter to Kaido's blast breath, I can say we have to be in for a fight. Probably. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. Now, last note. Kaido does seem to value his prized subordinates more than most antagonists, stepping in to stop Jack from dying. So we get yet another look into the complex personality of Kaido, which is always way more fascinating than I'm sure most of us expected a brute like him to be. Now, I can't wait for a more in-depth look at him as a villain. Overall, this was a really stellar chapter, and I look forward to the next chapter on the 4th of October. So what are your thoughts on the chapter, and did you guys enjoy this review? If so, I want to hear your opinions in the comments below, and if you feel so inclined, click that like button to show your support, and maybe subscribe. No pressure. Till next time, stay safe.